Okay, I just
There you
started the recording, and I want to thank everybody for being here today. This is our third employer showcase, and today we are very blessed to have Jessica Vermette. She's the HR recruiter for Seven Hills Foundation, and she's going to tell you all about herself, her career path, her company, and what she does for a living there. And as a recruiter, she can give you some inside information. So I'm sure Jessica will be fine to answer questions. You can raise your hand if you have a question on something. And of course, we'll leave time at the end for question and answer. And I'm sorry she's not able to be on the video today. She's having a little bit of technological problems like we all have, but she can see us. So we're excited about that. So without further ado, Jessica, could you please introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about your career path that led you to where you are now?
Ooh, okay, that's a big one. So my name is Jessica. I have been right now with Seven Hills. I'm literally approaching within a few days my year mark. I am the recruiter for Central Mass. I do recruit right now for about 5 different affiliates for Seven Hills. Seven Hills is much larger than what people realize, and I can go into that in a little bit. I've been recruiting for about probably 8 or 9 years. I've done multiple different roles in HR, and I pretty much have been in nonprofit almost continually for the last 20 years. Seven Hills is an organization I actually have always wanted to really join, and it never seemed like the right position opened up at the right time for me. And then clouds parted, the sun shined, and it was the perfect opportunity at the perfect time. And I jumped on board, and I've never looked back. I absolutely love working with Seven Hills Foundation. For those of you that don't know a ton about who we are a nonprofit. Right now, we're one of the largest, I should say, the largest nonprofit in Massachusetts. We're also in Rhode Island, and we cover a extreme variety of human services field. People think we just work with people with disabilities, or we just work with folks who have troubled children or things like that. And that's not the case. The reason we're such an amazing agency, or I should say foundation, is because we cover all aspects of human services. So we have everything from case management, mental health, physical disabilities. We have some very medical programs where a lot of people start doing direct care with us and then realize they want to be nurses. And we even have a pediatric center that deals with a lot of very medically fragile children, so G-tubes and trach tubes. We even have programs in Southeastern Mass that deal with a lot of like family services, case management, drug addiction counseling. We have HIV clinics and things like that. So we really cover a huge variety of services. It's an agency where a lot of folks will come in if they have an interest in human services. And then as they develop and figure out what their area of specialty is, we can almost guarantee you we can meet that and find you something within the foundation that will fall in lines with what you're doing. We're so large that we have our own marketing department and payroll and finance. And so really we're quite large, and we have quite a bit of different opportunities currently. It's changing constantly. Even right now with the craziness that is COVID, we're still managing to keep up the pace, and we're still hiring. We've turned all of our trainings. Probably in a matter of about a week or two, have most of our trainings now done virtually. We're even working with the American Red Cross so that folks can, and I couldn't wrap my brain around it at first, but we can still do CPR and first aid training virtually. So there's a lot of training that we're switching over. For the ones that were, we're struggling with trying to figure out how to do that, it's a challenge, and we're definitely going to work our way around it. But for the most part right now, 90% of everything folks need to initially get trained and started is all done virtually, and it's up and running.
Wow, that's fantastic. And for our students that are interested in applying, I know you're gonna talk about your website and how to apply. And then, but first, I want to ask you, as a longtime recruiter, what are with virtual internships and resumes and cover letters, what are you looking for? What would make a student stand out?
Now, that's a really, really good question. Because I can definitely tell you that everything that I've seen evolve in recruitment from a recruiter aspect has changed so much. When I initially started, as a recruiter, it was doing recruitment for relief and volunteers that were coming into another nonprofit agency. And that was, 10, 15 something plus years ago. And it was just the natural norm that people show up 15 minutes early, that people are dressed appropriately for interviews, that people have cover letters and resumes and things like that. And nowadays, because so much has gone, virtual and texting and all of this, some of that has been lost a little bit. So as a recruiter, I still like to see people who have put that effort into their resume, who still have, maybe perhaps a cover letter, no matter how short. The resumes, I've seen people really try to make them look super fancy, and they post pictures of themselves on it, but the content is really poor. So for me, it's really about, from my perspective, we do a lot of documentation here. All of our positions require documentation, and that really is, it showcases your ability to hear information coming in, understand what's coming in, and then being able to articulate that in the documentation. So I would definitely say, just make sure your resumes are sharp, that they're on point. I think one of the things I would hate to say that it's a trend, but that I see a lot more often is I actually see the, like that short text message kind of lingo put into resumes. And when I see it, I absolutely cringe.
We do too.
It's like LOL does not belong on your resume. So just, I think the only other thing I've seen a lot is because so many people have profiles on LinkedIn and Facebook. I see a lot more resumes that come in nowadays that literally will have like their name and it's the resume. There's no contact information on it. So for us, it's important to don't lose focus, on the basics, and that is making sure you know what it does. When you go to interview or even reach out to them, know what you're getting into first, look them up, do that research. So just getting back to basics, making sure the resume is sharp, and really thinking about some solid questions. There's to ask the person that you're going to be speaking with. Nothing impresses me more than somebody who will ask me not just, how much is the pay and what is the schedule like, but what can you provide me in long-term growth? I see myself doing this. How do you see me fitting into your organization? That is something that really stands out and impresses me when I interview folks.
Can I ask a question about the contact information?
Sure.
Yeah. My name is Sarah. I'm one of the career counselors. And one of the things that I do tell students on resumes is they don't necessarily have to put their street address anymore. So I do say where they are from, but I assume that that's what you were saying in contact information. They don't need to put their street address anymore.
No, not at all. Especially now, and especially with college students in particular, you guys are, you're in dorms. Sometimes you stay with the parents, and then you say, you know what, it's better. I'm going to go stay with a bunch of friends, and we don't need street addresses, but name and maybe cell number, or just something simple like name and your email address. I've definitely seen a lot of resumes lately, and I'm not sure why, not necessarily from college students either. It's just a lot of resumes coming in with, the person's first and last name and a picture of themselves. And I'm like, okay, great. So I have this resume, but you have to remember your resume could be one of hundreds. And so when I save it on my desktop, instead of me having to now search you all over again, just having that basic contact information right up there on the top is really beneficial.
Could you go through the interview process? Is it a phone screen and then a Zoom, or could you guys leave the students to what, like, say you look at their resume, they got a good resume. What are your steps after that?
Okay. So, it's definitely has evolved in the last few weeks. But definitely I take a look at that resume, and I don't necessarily look for experience. Sometimes there's things about people's resume, they could have no experience in the field, but it's the fact that they were very articulate in how they created their resume. Customer service, if you can handle customer service, you can definitely handle working with some of our folks, because that's a challenging environment. So once I look for certain things like that, I have a tendency to give them a call. I like to do just like a basic phone screening. I want to know who you are and what you're looking for, what prompted your interest in our foundation, do you understand exactly what it is we do, and things like that. If it comes to a point where I really think it's a person I want to take a better look at, I then usually will either an in-person interview, which right now is on hold, or we'll do another follow-up phone interview. I prefer Zoom a lot, because basically you can get a better sense of people when you get to see them as you're engaging with them, because communication is 90% body language. So it usually will go through that kind of like two-step process. Once I determine that, I really think they're going to be a fit. Maybe they have no experience, but their personality is something that we really could use in a program. They're creative, they're energetic. They have a tendency when they speak about folks to be very respectful. Then I forward them on to a program manager. The program manager will then also conduct an interview, typically in person, but now through Zoom as well, and interview that folks with adding, again, some more specifics about the program. So asking how they would react in a certain situation, or how do they feel about doing certain tasks. Sometimes we even have area directors that oversee those programs take part in those as well. Once that wraps up, usually that's the end of the process, and we'll all get together, me, the residence directors, we all talk about, some of the strengths the person had. Okay, where did they struggle a little bit? Is it something that is coachable and trainable? Sometimes the questions we ask are very hard to answer if you've never done the work before. But if you have at least the ability and the aptitude to learn and be trained, and you're open to that, we definitely can move forward.
How important is a thank you immediately after, say, an email thank you, and or if you've ever received a actual snail mail thank you card? How important is that to you and your decision?
That's a really, really good question. That one I kind of can go back and forth on. Sometimes it's really wonderful to have that quick, thank you so much for your time. It was a pleasure hearing about, your foundation and learning more and seeing where I can fit in. It doesn't necessarily sway my decision. I've had some amazing candidates that were very impressive that didn't do any kind of a follow-up like that. And then I had some really so good interviews, and they have followed up after the fact. I always say it absolutely never hurts to do the follow-up, and especially when you can actually almost give some of what you learned back. So it's, thank you for, I like learning more about your community services program or the individuals in neurocare. It shows that you really listened and you learned as well.
How many, you spoke a little bit about people would be surprised how many, how big the agency is. Could you tell us how many facilities that you have to run? I know that you've already spoken about you have careers in almost every field because it's a large agency, but just to give the students the scope of, you said you were in Mass and Rhode Island, but how many placements do you have there?
Holy cow. Okay. So we have basically, like, how I would break it down is we have certain affiliates. So we would have a community services affiliate, a neurocare, a family services, and then under those, multiple programs. And off the top of my head, I honestly can't give you the exact number because it literally has changed so much in the last 2 months. We brought on U Inc. as an affiliate. I don't know if anyone's, familiar
with about that. Yes.
So now we're still getting familiar, and I'm still scheduling meetings to get more familiar with them and what they offer for services. But I can honestly probably say we've got to be 40, 50 different types of programs under our affiliates. And underneath there's multiple offices and locations. I know currently right now our number of employees, we're right underneath the 3,000 mark. So we are quite large. And when I say all of Mass, it's, Northeast, Southeast, South Shore, Central, the Cape, the Islands, Martha's Vineyard as well. People go, you have group homes on Martha's Vineyard. I'm like, yes, we do. So, and all throughout Rhode Island. So it's numerous. I can actually forward, we have a great kind of like, I wouldn't say a spreadsheet, but it's a wonderful flyer, and it really breaks down all of our different affiliates, and then breaks it down even more under each affiliate, what type of program is underneath. I can forward that along if that would be helpful.
That would be great. Is it all right, Jessica, if we open up for the students to tell you a little bit about themselves and what their career goals are?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay. Well, Natasha's up in my corner, so I'm going to start with her.
All right. Well, first of all, Jessica, I want to thank you for coming to this event and sharing about your company and its valuable information. So, one question that I guess I will just share about myself. So, I'm an early childhood major, and I'm interested in STEM education. So, I have a concentration in natural science and I have a minor in biology. So it leads to me asking if you have any educational opportunities within Seven Hills Foundation that is worth to know, or like if you could share any career paths that could lead you to become either, I don't know, if you have a lead teacher or a teacher's assistant or any other position in the educational background.
We do. A lot of what we do, even if the title per se isn't a quote unquote teacher, most of our positions when you're working directly with our individuals, whether they're youth, children, or adults, we're always educating them. That's the main goal of what we do. It isn't necessarily about just doing for them if they need help. We really try to, provide education and teach them about why it's important to do things like take their meds, or, you know, teach them about their illness, teach them about how to create even resumes, for example. We have a lot of folks that are capable of working, and they need coaching around creating resumes and how do they find the job that's best for them, you know, where they have a passion. And then again, we go into some early education type pieces where we are working with young children or young youth. We're doing education with them. They are literally going to school at a program. One of our programs is called Stetson. It has youth and teenagers up until, I want to say it's 22 is the cutoff mark. That we, you know, they come to school with us. They've come from very challenging backgrounds. They were at high risk. And so they've come to us, some of them with some really challenging behaviors. Some have had, you know, run-ins with the law. They come to us, we help them get their either their GED or their equivalent. We give them basically like assessments to kind of help them learn about themselves, so that again, they can now learn about what career path do they want. We even have programs based throughout the rest of Seven Hills that are kind of like in-home education. So you would go into the home and work with the parents and work with the young child to kind of teach them a little bit about their behavior, maybe why they're doing the behavior, create behavior plans, and then work with them on maybe their social skills. So it's very hard to go into specifics because we have everything from community support to clinical and behavioral to family services and child and family services. It's quite large. It's quite large. So usually what I do is when people come to me and go, this is my career field, you know, what do you got for me? I'm like, well, where are you located? What's the area? I currently deal with only a few of the affiliates. We have a recruiter for our Northeast, a recruiter for the Southeast, a recruiter for the Cape and Islands, and then also a recruiter for Rhode Island. And so depending on where the program is, or where you reside, we'll kind of direct you to the recruiter that will best narrow things down for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Janae, you're up next.
Hi. First of all, thank you for coming to speak with us and sharing your resources. I'm Janae. I'm a senior psychology student. I'm currently doing a minor in business. I'm graduating, or supposed to graduate in May, this May. So I'm interested in community psychology, which is sort of just understanding different members of the community and helping to advocate for them and sort of make improvements to improve like quality of life overall. So I just had questions about, do you guys have more like non-direct applied care, or like what kind of jobs do you offer undergrad students?
So undergrad students, there's many different ways you can get involved, whether through, you know, I like to throw in volunteerism as well, because I used to be a volunteer recruiter, but more so for the employment side. Undergrads, a lot of them actually will come to us and reach out and say, look, this is my area, it's psychology or it's business, or I'm thinking about becoming a licensed social worker. And then what we do is we look at all of our different affiliates and we would start working with you on really where it is you see yourself in 5 years or 10 years. And then try to place you within a program where you're going to be challenged and learn a lot. It could be whether it's a family support center, you could be working, we have a cultural inclusion, we have community-based supports. We even have like a peer counseling support. There's so many different things that you can do. There's psychology assessments. We have positions where literally what you do is you're not necessarily working every day directly one-on-one, But what you would do is our programs would come to you and say, okay, we're having a really hard time with, let's say, Jane. Jane has this behavior. We can't seem to figure out why it appears or why she's doing those things. This person may be nonverbal or have limited verbal skills. And what you would do is you would work with the people who work directly with Jane, her primary care physician, maybe a physical therapist, her clinician, and you would help develop a plan around how to work with Jane in the behavior and try to figure out what triggers it. A lot of what we do is positive behavior supports. So, we don't go, so-and-so did this and then they get a punishment. That never works. It's been proven it doesn't work. Instead, it would be all about positive behavior. If you can, if Jane can get through the day without doing this behavior, you earn something, whether she loves coffee or, she loves a favorite movie. So it's really about just surrounding them with positive things and goals they can work towards. But there's numerous aspects. A lot of students do come to us, and while they're working for us, whether full-time or part-time, the hours that they're working with us actually can be considered clinical hours because they're underneath someone with a master's degree, or they're underneath someone who's a licensed clinician. So it's kind of a twofold. A lot of people don't get to have experience and an internship in a sense, and it's paid all at the same time. So that's where we can really kind of benefit students.
Great. All right, Val, you're up.
Hi, Jessica, thank you for coming. It's always so wonderful to hear about what organizations with such powerful missions do for the community. I have a slightly different background. I'm a corporate and organizational communication major. So I'm curious what types of paths there are for someone who's looking for positions in administration or marketing or entry-level HR.
Yep, that's actually a great area to kind of jump into a little bit, especially now. One of our biggest things right now that we've struggled with this COVID is that people just assume everybody's closed. Everybody's closed, nobody's hiring. We are hiring, and we have a marketing department, and they have been working double time over to try to make sure that it's marketed that we are hiring and that we're still fundraising. Our marketing department has done an amazing job that basically have stepped up to the plate and helped market, and not only market us, but then help open and start and to facilitate an emergency fund and market that and start looking at some fundraising in that aspects. They've helped collaborate with a lot of other, what typically would be our competitors, where we're all starting to collaborate now to share information, to share wealth, to market each other. Because we're all in this for hopefully we're all in this for the right reasons, and that's to help folks who maybe don't get the best care or treatment, or who sometimes get overlooked. So there is plenty of ways to get involved, whether it's marketing, that could be anything, whether it's web-based, marketing us to the folks that help put together our fundraisers, market us to other businesses. We're starting again to broach into marketing us to other agencies that normally would be a competitor, and say, hey, look, if I have somebody that I need and you have them, if you send them my way, I can then send someone your way. And it's about networking. So marketing, entry-level HR, we have a lot of like admin roles in different areas, whether it's community services or the behavioral side, family services and support, U Inc., which I mentioned earlier, our other affiliate, they even have their own HR department, their own recruiting, their own admin. So there's many different areas where you can get involved, whether it's marketing, whether it's web. We have a section actually of marketing that specifically is just like web-based and LinkedIn and marketing us that way, fundraising and all kinds of good stuff. So plenty of different ways to get involved.
Just to put in a word, Val is our intern this semester, and I'll tell you, we would be lost without her. This is her last week of her internship, so we're all crying. She has really elevated our office. I get compliments all the time on the elevation of all of our marketing, social media, everything she does is A1. I just have to throw that out there. So, and I'm sure Wendy and Sarah would agree. And I've worked with Janae for several years, and there's no better student there. And Natasha's kind of new to the group, but she just impresses me. So you've got 3 great students on the call today. I'm going to open it up if you have other questions, students. And she's really great with career information because she's been to every one of our career presentations. So she knows all about helping people with their career materials.
Yeah, I have to say, first of all, I'm impressed with the 3 of you ladies that showed up. You guys are still, you dressed well and you're ready and you had questions. And that's impressive, and it's hard, especially towards the end of the day. A lot of things come up, and it's very easy just to kind of go, oh my gosh, now it's 20 minutes past 4 or whatever. You guys were all ready to go with great questions. Because my foundation is so large, and sometimes it's very hard to get into specifics because it depends on where you're located and what affiliate is there. I'm going to send some information along that can be forwarded on to you guys, so you can really get a better sense of what affiliates are where, and you can see the vast number of programs where we have, like I said, long-term care, we have home-based counseling, home-based therapeutic sections. I mean, there's so many that I could put you to sleep with just starting to list them all off. So I'm going to forward just some nice information over that you guys can get, where you can really take a look at our different affiliates and see how large of a variety we have of programs in different areas that you can go into. Myself speaking, when I started in human services a long time ago, one of the things the company that I initially started with didn't have that Seven Hills Foundation does is because we have such a wide range that even if, let's say, you spend 5 years or 10 years within children and family services, and you kind of get that little antsy, like, I think I've seen it all, now what's next? You can easily transition over to a clinical or behavioral health cluster, or you could transition over to community services. So there's always places to go, and it's not unheard of when you come to the main office to talk to folks that have been with Foundation 20 years, 30 years, 15 years. So it's a lot of value we put into our employees and helping folks with constant trainings, continuing education. You're going to notice, strangely, there's a lot of doctors within Seven Hills because we love education, and we're constantly doing amazing tuition reimbursement programs and things like that. So there's a lot of, doctors of counseling, doctors of psychology, doctor of this. We kind of joke that, it's crazy. We have this huge foundation, tons of doctors, but nobody wears a stethoscope per se. So there's a lot of opportunities, and I'm going to forward some information over so you guys can see that.
Jessica, is it all right if I share your contact information with the students and they can contact you for further questions?
Absolutely. If you want, share my my contact information with them. If you want, they can respond, and I can send them, depending on what you're interested in, specific information instead of just kind of 4 or 5 documents that kind of cover everything. That way you don't have to weed through it yourself. And I am constantly, my schedule changes daily, but I'm always available, even after hours, late at night. I don't mind that either, to discuss something in particular you're interested in, to answer more questions, or do a Zoom meeting at all.
Well, thank you, Jessica. We so appreciate your time, and